Hi, I'm Jess. Welcome back to my channel, Chilling Like a Villain. And I'm going to film my January wrap up. First book I read was The Tin Princess by Philip Pullman. This is the fourth Sally Lockhart book. This one follows Jim, who is her friend throughout all of the books. So it's almost like a companion novel, but I still recommend reading the rest of them. This one was not my favourite. And I said this with The Tiger in the Well, but parts of it felt rushed. And this is a very small book, so it did feel a little bit rushed in parts, and it didn't go in the direction that I thought that it was going to go. And I don't know what it is, right? Because Sally and Fred in the first books, I ship them, I love them, it's very well developed. But then there are other romances in these books where it's just I don't feel it, and it's still good because Philip Pullman's a very good writer and he's very intelligent and very clever. Um, but I don't know. I wanted more development. I think in certain aspects of this. I love Jim. Don't get me wrong. Jim is always amazing. Jim's lovely. Essentially, what this book is about. I'm not going into too much spoilery bits because one of the characters is sort of I can't really tell you too much about them unless you've read the other books. But Jim, Becky, and someone else that they know have to go to this tiny European country and protect a princess. Essentially, is what it's about. I just wanted more, and I know it's a really small book, but I just wanted more, and it was a little bit of a disappointing end to the series. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Diary of River Song. This is 5 short stories focused on River Song. They are narrated by Alex Kingston, who plays River Song. I've just realised I keep saying River Song. If you don't know who that is, she is a character from Doctor Who, and she's super wonderful and badass and great. Anyway, so these 5 stories, they kind of follow along from each other, and it just follows her. She's essentially trying to solve a mystery. She gets into adventures and gets into scrapes, and they're all kind of orchestrated by the same person for whatever reason, and she's trying to find out. It was fine. It was okay. Alex Kingston, I would listen to her reading a phone book. She's wonderful, and having it being narrated by River did sort of boost it up a bit. But I think for me it was just average, just because the stories weren't that interesting to me personally. I think that other people would just love this. It was just whatever about these stories I just didn't connect to for certain reasons. But yeah, there were bits in the middle where I kind of stopped listening, not gonna lie. But no, it was fine. I would recommend it if you like Doctor Who. If you like River Song, I would recommend it. Next book I DNF'd because okay, let me tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you a story right now. I have tried to read The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice 3 times. The first book 3 times, and every time I have just put it down and I've not finished it because I just can't. There's just something about it. I just can't. So I thought maybe it's just something to do with these particular characters of this story because I feel like I would like them. I feel like there's a story in there that I do want to read. But luckily, Anne Rice has a series about witches. The Mayfair Witches, New Orleans, 1980s, 90s, I think. So I started this and I was enjoying it more than The Vampire Chronicles. I started The Witching Hour, which is the first Mayfair Witches book, and it was fine. It was just fine. I wasn't really connecting to the characters after hearing their entire life story. I was just like, and it was very interesting, and it was actually very scary, because these books are very dark and they have very dark topics, so like trigger warnings abound essentially. So it was really freaking me out actually. So I just put it down because I was just like, one, this is freaking me out. Two, I don't care that much to commit. And three, it's over 1,000 pages. If I'd have read this, this would probably be the longest book that I never read, and I've read Gone with the Wind. Okay, like that shit is long. Next, I read Night Film by Marisha Pessl. Follows Scott McGrath. He is an investigative journalist in New York, and a few years ago he went after this reclusive filmmaker because he believed he was doing something wrong, or he believed that he was possibly a murderer. Only he then got sued for saying this and kind of lost his job and his wife and his kid. So he's like reluctant to even go near that anymore. He doesn't talk about it until one day he finds out that this reclusive filmmaker's daughter, Ashley, has apparently killed herself but he thinks it's under mysterious circumstances, or at least he wants to know why, because he thinks that maybe her father has something to do with it. So you follow him trying to solve this mystery. But the reason this book is so interesting is that, I mean, I read a lot of mystery, but I read crime. So it's the police trying to solve this mystery. In this, he's just a journalist. So he doesn't have warrants, he doesn't have red tape, he just kind of goes and does whatever he wants and like breaks into houses and stuff. So it's actually a lot more interesting, because he doesn't have permission to do any of this stuff, and I think that means that the stakes are a lot higher as well. The characters are really great. He kind of ends up with two other people on his little investigative team that kind of in this found little family, and I loved reading them. Nora and Hopper, they were just great. I love Nora. Also, it's a good mystery. I was a bit meh at the ending, but what I understand about this book is that it's not really even to do with how it ends or what happened. It's more about exploring why and exploring belief and the line between what's real and what's not real, or what you perceive to be real. 4 stars. Then I read The Diviners by Libba Bray. Okay, so this was like an average book for me, not gonna lie. I really like the Gemma Doyle series. I really like Beauty Queens, so I tend to really like Libba Bray's writing, but this one, as much as I liked the writing, I don't know, I just couldn't connect to it so much, and I think that I, one, hyped it up, and two, I didn't really care about the main character Evie, because you essentially follow an eclectic cast of characters in the 1930s, 20s. When did they have flappers? Like 1920s, I don't know. In New York, and some kind of mystical shit starts happening, basically. And they have to find out who's murdering these people, and whether it's a spirit or a ghost, and that kind of thing, and they all have powers because they're all diviners. That's a really shit explanation, but that is essentially what it's about. And it follows, because of that, lots of different perspectives, and as with what always happens when I follow different perspectives, I tend to just prefer one. In this one I preferred Memphis, who is this African American numbers runner, so like doing a lottery, but you're not allowed to do that, and he has powers, he has healing powers and all of this stuff, and he's lovely, and I love him. But I didn't like Evie, who you see the most of, and I don't know why. And I know that she's meant to be selfish and she's meant to be flawed, because Libba Bray is very good at writing sort of flawed characters and human characters. I just didn't care about her particularly. I didn't connect to her. I didn't care about Jericho, and there's a little romance between Evie and Jericho, but I just didn't care about. And this is another thing I'm going to mention. Memphis also has a romance with one of the other characters. I didn't care about either of these romances, like, whatsoever. And I don't know what it is about Libba Bray's romances, because even in the Gemma Doyle series I didn't care. And that was over 3 books. And these, in 1 book, I really just didn't connect to it at all. And I've also heard that the second one is not as good. I am going to read the second one, but it doesn't give me high hopes. I didn't care particularly about the first one, so we're just going to have to see. Then I listened to the audiobook of These Broken Stars by Megan Spooner and Amy Kaufman. 2 stars, guys, 2 stars. I did not like this book at all. I wanted like a romance, but I wanted like something set in space. I wanted something like Star Wars, basically, but with more romance. I just wanted like Han and Leia, but that did not happen. This book follows Lilac. I say lilac because I'm English, but they say lilac, which really annoyed me. But it follows Lilac and Tava as they are on a spaceship, but this spaceship crashes and they are the only survivors, and they have to survive on a planet together. And various mysterious things start happening, and they have to figure out what's going on this planet. Yeah, I wanted more space. This seems to be like the census of the reviews. I wanted more space and more development and more action. I didn't care about the characters. I liked Harbour at the beginning, but Lilac, I never cared about her. No, 2 stars. It was boring. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read, but I will not be continuing with this series. Then I read Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. I listened to the audiobook again of this, and I listened to 8 hours straight and then finished it the next day. Book was so good. It is about Kelsey, who has been hidden away for her own protection till she's 19, and then she can become the queen of the Tearling, her country. And it essentially follows her trying to get to the kingdom because it's been taken over by her horrible uncle, and she wants to survive in order to be crowned. And then it follows her trying to fix her country and be a queen. And I really loved it. I loved it. And I think I read it at exactly the right time as well, because I just finished These Broken Stars and I didn't like it, and I didn't want to read any kind of romance, so I read Queen of the Tearling, which has like the most minuscule amount imaginable, and other than that doesn't have any, and it was just perfect, honestly, because I just really liked reading about her journey, her being confident, her learning to be confident in her own decisions and herself, her little found family that she had with the guards, and all these different characters. It was just great. I think I gave it 3.5 stars on Goodreads, and the reason I gave it that is the ending is very abrupt. It kind of feels like it just stopped at the end of a chapter. So this is why I really want to read the sequel. But the writing was really good, the character development was really good, the story, I've heard people say that it was slow, but I did not find it slow. And I heard people say like, oh, there's so much world building that you can just get bored. But I honestly did not find that. I really liked being along for the journey, because that's what it feels like, especially when she is traveling from her home to the keep. It's just a journey, and it's just nice to sort of sit back and go along with it. So you kind of don't even notice how long it is, to be honest. Then I read Mort by Terry Pratchett. This is the 4th Discworld book. Now, I don't know what it is about Discworld books. They always start off really good, and then in the middle I get really bored, and then in the end it's good again, basically. But this follows Mort, who becomes the apprentice to Death. And then he kind of makes a mistake and he saves someone who should have died, and things kind of unravel from there because you're not really allowed to do that. I like Terry Pratchett's writing. I think it's very clever and I think he's very funny, and I will continue with the Discworld series. There is like 40 books, but they're not a priority because they always take me longer than they should. Because this one was only 243 pages, but it took me longer to read than a 500-page book. It's just because like I lose interest halfway through, and I don't know why. A Moment of Silence by Anna Dean. This is the first Dido Kent mystery. This is a Regency mystery series following Dido Kent, who is like the spinster and solving a mystery, basically. I picked this up because you might have heard me mention on this channel once or twice, like, this series is one of my favourite series, and that is a historical mystery romance. This is not a historical mystery romance, it is just a historical mystery. It's what we class as a cosy mystery, so something more along the lines of Miss Marple or something like that. So, no romance so much, even though that's kind of why I picked it up and why I wanted it. I'm enjoying it. I can read it very, very quickly. That's the thing. It's not exactly what I wanted, and it's not my favourite thing I've ever read. It's probably going to be a 3-star book, but I can read it very quickly, and I know I can read it very quickly. So yeah, we'll just see how that goes. So that was my terrible rambling January wrap up, but I'm going to have to cut down. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.